Hi, I'm Walter, I'm the Dutch mentor, and welcome back to the Smart Performance Podcast, where S stands for self-care, M for mindful growth, A for adaptive problem solving, R for rhythmic operation, T, of course, for that thriving community, and P for performance. I'm really happy to have Michelle here today because we're going to talk about a topic that we have not spoken about all that much, but it is really, really important because most of you, especially those who are still stuck in the beginning stages of leadership, that you at times feel that your central nervous system is on fire and that you feel anxious and you're not sure what to do. And there's some really basic techniques like somatic techniques we can talk about. We're going to lay out a case presentation. Again, the goal here is for you to relate to this. You don't need to compare it, but you can find things that you have in common. And of course, as always, within 15 minutes, you will get actionable takeaway, right? You have to put these things into play today or tomorrow morning, because that's how you're going to adapt to new behaviors and habits. Michelle, thank you for joining me here today. Tell me a little bit about yourself.
Well, thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here with you, Walter. So I do executive coaching, leadership coaching, and I love to work with all these folks out here in the busy world of corporate Americas because I feel like they need a lot of support, and mostly operating out of chaotic, a lot going on, back-to-back Zoom meetings. I'm sure your audience can relate to all of these things, and then in promotions and different things, adjusting to that new role, a lot of different facets, right? So just helping them be able to navigate all of that environment with as much ease and grace as possible. And a big part of that is our body and our nervous system and how we are operating out of that. So I want to bring some awareness to that today.
Excellent. Yeah, listen, becoming an executive leader is a very lonely experience at times. And it's even more important that people like that in those positions, as soon as, especially as they come into these positions, that they don't go at it alone and they seek some executive coaching.
Hmm.
There's of course interesting studies have shown over and over that the boss gets coaching, but the people who really need it, that's that middle management team that 90% of the frontline reports to, who are very new to leadership, really, really need it. And we're now doing a really good job in servicing them. But hopefully today, as they listen to this, they have some basic techniques they can do and recognize if their central nervous system is on fire and they feel not that great about leading their team, that there is ways to get help and actions they can take. Like always, let's establish a problem statement. What have you seen? What have you experienced? What is it? Maybe one of your clients. Set the stage on why this is becomes an issue and how this can hold somebody back.
Yeah, thank you. So problem, chaos, problem, not really a problem, promotion, right? Shouldn't be a problem, except that new role, it demands us to learn new skills potentially or to shift to a different way of leading and perhaps letting go of some things we've been doing in the past, maybe some being in the weeds. And also, if we're not prepared for that next level, our nervous system can take over. And if we're not healthy in our nervous system and how that's operating, it exacerbates it and makes it even more intense. We can get into a little bit of the neuroscience. A lot of people are talking about that right now. But when our nervous system is on fire and activated in a chaotic or an intense environment or trying to figure things out and we don't know how, our nervous system goes into what we call sympathetic fight, flight, and freeze. And the thing is when we're in a high intensity environment all the time, where there's never a chance to let down, we can get stuck in that. And then our best thinking, our best ideas, our best possibilities get cut off because we're back here in fight, flight, and freeze instead of up here in our prefrontal cortex where we actually can do our best thinking. So that's step one for me a lot of times is doing this inner work so that I can, and then we can get into strategy. Strategy is very important, obviously, but if we can't get our best strategies until we calm our nervous system down. So the problem in this case with my particular client was exactly that. She was promoted and she started looking around at, and saying, I can't lead the same way I was leading before. So that's why she decided to hire some help. And you're right, just have somebody to walk alongside her as she was navigating her new position. So, yeah.
Yeah, I think it's brilliant. And by the way, studies have shown, and it's my personal experience, I'm sure you've seen it too, that women are much smarter than men. They actually go out and talk, because not only men tend to lead from the lower brain,
Mm,
they also lead by ego and pride, and that
yes.
stops them from asking for help. And it's really a downfall, right? So I really have, I've been surrounded by some phenomenal, women leaders who have really broken down to rebuild themselves and become robust and resilient leaders, and it is really brave and courageous to do that. Uh, because it starts with that, right? You need to be able to look in the mirror and say, "Listen, I don't have all the answers. I need a little bit of help along the way." So tell me, what does that help look like when you work with somebody as they come in first? With like, "Oh my God, the world is on fire. There's so much noise around me." How do you start the process of discovery?
Yeah, a lot of times I'll have them actually do a living vision for what it is they want to create. I mean, we just start at the basics. That is the basics for me. We may even need to identify their values just to see if we can get that in alignment. If they don't know where they're headed, it's kind of hard to create into that. We can just put out the fires, but really I'd like it to be more of a transformational, actual, sustainable change that we're creating, not just put a Band-Aid on it kind of a solution. And so I want them to get clear on what is it exactly that they're trying to accomplish. What do they want their team to look like? What do they want their work experience to look like? What do they want their role to look like? And then we have that compass. And from there, we start to unpack and uncover all the things that are standing in the way of that. And some of them foundationally, that's where we get into the inner work. For me, that's the biggest bang for our buck as far as lasting, sustainable change is to look at our insides, and part of that work is the nervous system somatic work, but also we'll do mindset work. I mean, things that coaches do, and work on emotions, and a lot of it is about bringing self-awareness to ourselves. Where are we stuck? Are we stuck in looping thinking and intense thinking, or start to bring awareness to, oh, my body's speaking to me, I feel exhausted, I feel tired, which then people call that burnout, right? So starting to become aware of where my breakdowns in myself are is a beginning part of the conversation.
Very interesting. So listen, we can go to 5 different rabbit holes, but I want to go into a lane of the somatic techniques that you can deploy with somebody. But before I go into that one, because I think it helps set it up a little bit too, is that people in today's society always want instantaneous satisfaction. They want to be masters at everything with just trying at one time. So talk a little bit about how do you get them to, how do you set this up for them to understand this is not an overnight cure. This is not. I don't want you to feel good like you go to an acupuncture. It feels good when you're there, but then as soon as you walk away, there's questionable outcome. How do you set it up with them to set a reasonable expectation that you go on a journey, and how long does it take to finally get to a point that you find that calmness and that feeling that hey, I'm not just surviving, but I'm thriving again.
Yeah, it's going to depend on the individual and how open they are to doing that inner work, right? But I do have an example of someone I'm working with currently who is, I guess we're about 5 months into the engagement together, but she was promoted and had this chaotic, like I mentioned, she had this chaotic, I need to adjust to the new level. And we started doing this inner work, and she just in the last session said, I haven't felt this calm in about 5 years. And here's this goes down the line of the conversation a little bit, but she started to wonder if she needed to fill that space up back with chaos again, actually. And so we had to slow it down and have her see that, oh, this experience of calm is actually what she was wanting to experience and create. So we have to be careful of this is why the nervous system comes in, and it's so important, because our nervous system will only allow us to experience oftentimes what we're already used to, and it wants to stay in that state, or it almost can't receive the calm state. So then it wants to come back to something that feels, while it doesn't feel comfortable, it's familiar. So anyway, that's what happened in this case. But that was about 5 months. And again, it doesn't have to take forever, because especially, and this isn't just a promotion for coaching, but it is a promotion for asking for help, like you said a moment ago, because it definitely can accelerate. Like I've been doing this inner work for, I don't know, 15 years, right? But that's the whole point is I've done a lot of the work. I know I'm sure you have too, that we can shortcut that very quickly because we know where the gold is for them to help them unlock their
Yeah, the
things.
key is, of course, you cannot go through the feeling part and the discussion part, because if they don't see it, right, and they just looking for that instantaneous, like I always said, listen, I can teach you a couple of things. Just splash cold water in your face, you'll be okay. But that fixes the moment, but not the underlying cause. And especially I work a lot in healthcare, and we are notorious for being firefighters, right?
Mm-hmm.
Any problem we see, we put it out, but we never really get to the root causes of it. So all we ever do is keep coming back to the same problem over and
Yeah.
over and over. And
Right.
that's the same thing with leadership, right? I can give you a quick fix. I can make you feel better today, but if you don't understand why it happens, it will happen again, and that's of course not very good. And those can become trigger points. So the brain is funny, right? We have the lower brain activity as you talked about, the upper brain activity you talk about. Once you get, especially the ruminating, the anxious state of mind, that needs to be disrupted, right? So talk a little bit now, very specifically, and maybe even demonstrate a little bit of what is the somatic technique you teach in order to get people to start breaking that cycle. And of course, is done through repetition in order to build sustainable habits.
Exactly. And so, talking about the neurons, right? Like we've patterned them into in a groove. Let's say they're lined up in a certain way, so that's where we automatically go to that reaction or that state. And so these pattern interrupt are things that we do need to practice. But over time, you run the experiment, you practice it to see what happens and how it works for you. But the idea is we're reprogramming and establishing new tracks, you might say, in the brain so that we can have a new experience. So I am going to stand up, and hopefully you can see me. I'm going to give you a simple, as a matter of fact, literally, I just got off a call with a client just moments ago, right before this, and she was about to go into a high stakes meeting. She was feeling a little bit of anxiety, and this is a high level person. But I was like, well, let's have her stand up and do this before. And she immediately said, I feel better already. Excuse me. So I'm going to do that now.
Very good.
Thanks. Can you see me?
Yeah, I can see you.
So it's simple. Or if I'm feeling a little anxiety for any reason, before I go into a high intensity situation, maybe even before you meet your kids or somebody, it could be used anytime. It doesn't have to just be at work. So yeah,
So
simply.
it's interesting. I actually recommend people to go watch Mike Holland. He's an exercise guru, but really he
Mm.
talks about the somatic, and he calls it it's a basic old Chinese swinging exercise that
Ah,
does exactly what you're talking about. Right? You have like 5 or 6 different movements you can do that. I adopted that standard for myself. Gosh, probably about a year ago. So I had a spinal cord injury, and I
mm.
had to learn how to rebalance myself
Oh, wow.
and make sure that I kept moving in the right direction. And it is really has helped me regulate myself and then find balance again. The combination between that and Tai Chi walking, and Tai Chi walking is not about the walking; it's about the intentionality behind it. Right? You can't think of 100 things while doing that, and living in the now, bringing that back down. And just so I know for myself these things work. The
Mm-hmm.
key thing is to do them, right? And that's really to the audience again intentionality behind it. Just that don't just listen, but actually exercise and
Yeah,
really open yourself to feel this. And as you do this, you say, "Hey, listen, I can buy into this concept." So
right.
very good. I'll give you one more example that somebody can do, maybe in a sitting position or something else that, as a quick exercise, they could do. They could do because listen, one thing doesn't always work for somebody else, right?
That's right. Let's say, I mean, this is not exactly just somatic, what I'm about to say, but even just taking a moment to pause to allow this part of my brain to be engaged, noticing if notice if I'm feeling a little out of balance in some way, or if my, mind's going crazy or wild. But then stop, which I think is the hardest thing to do when we're in these intense environments, but just stop and take a deep breath. Like literally slow it down. I'm going to slow it down right now. And what you're focusing on is maybe the rise and fall of your chest, or wherever the breath is in your belly or your chest, maybe diaphragm. And you're just noticing that rise and fall. So that brings your mind to the present moment, which is to the body. And that's really one of the benefits of doing somatic work, is because somatic is the body, the unconscious. Also, the body is where the body is always in the present moment, always. It's always right here, right now. It's our mind and our emotions that take us either forward or backward in time. And so we can just bring our awareness back to our body. We will be back here in this moment now. And that is where you will find that moment of rest and peace coming out of here and coming down into here.
Listen, I love it. With that said, where can people find you to maybe learn more about it?
Yeah. Well, they can come over to my website, michellescottcoaching.com. I have a little leadership presence quiz, and it's a free little quiz, but they can learn a little bit more about themselves. And then also there's some really good somatic tools actually in each of the types. I give some somatic tools so they can practice and play with them, some little quick wins they can do and experiment. That's what I encourage everybody. Experiment. Take one thing that you saw today or any place you see Walter's messages and try it out for a while and see how it works for you. So, yeah.
That's wonderful. It is exactly right. It's not one thing that works for everybody. It's having multiple choices and different techniques for sure. So give me your final thought or some takeaway action steps for the audience today.
Yeah. My biggest one is this idea of slowing down enough. We don't have to slow down for even 5 minutes. It could be just a moment, just a quick moment to check in on your state, who you are, what you're doing inside of yourself, and just take that deep breath. It can be really uncomfortable to just be quiet for a moment. But if you can just give it a try, I really feel like it could change your life. Just one little micro change like that. So, and what else would I say? Gosh, keep doing the inner work, because that's actually where you'll change your life and you'll change your leadership from the inside out. And to me, that's where sustainable change comes from. Sustainable meaning you don't have to try anymore to be different. You just show up in a different way, in a different state, because you shifted the inside of who you are.
You're creating new normal, and
That's right.
and if you do this well, you go back to what Maya Angelou says, it's not what you do to people, it's how you make people feel. When you're truly connected, people will feel that as well.
That's right.
I love the concept of the 45-second timeout, or I
Mm-hmm.
call it micro timeouts, and it's really helpful to people, especially in healthcare where people are busy running around and barely have time to go to the bathroom. But if you go to the bathroom anyhow, take that 2 to 3 minutes to do some intentional breathing or swinging or whatever it is that it works for you. But doing it is the key to it. Michelle, thank you very much for the insights you provided today. I really appreciate you. And to the audience, again, go to thedutchmentor.com. You actually have a little companion app there that you can go into and hold yourself accountable on a daily basis on doing some exercises, especially depending on what kind of mood you're in. It helps, it was intentionally designed for the college student and for those who are in an anxious state of mind as they go into new roles and new opportunities. But again, it's about doing it, right? We can lead a horse to water. I can't make you drink it. The action comes to you, and do it, right? It costs nothing, but it will save you time, grief, and all kinds of other gray hairs, which I don't have anymore, into the future. I hope that everybody has a great day. Again, take meaningful action, because without action, you cannot change habits and behaviors and certainly not sustain them. Michelle, thank you very much for being here today.
Thanks, Walter. I appreciate you.
Thank you.
Take care.